You're listening to VK Career Conversations with Val. The reason I decided to do this is that we all come from a place of insecurity or just not knowing where we want to go with our career. We'll be consistent. We will feed your soul. We want you to ask questions, gaining information so that you can move forward in your career. Well, hello. How you doing, ladies? Are y'all doing okay this morning?
Heck yeah.
All righty. Welcome to VK Career Conversation. Today, we're going to talk about checking it at the door in the workplace. A lot of times we bring in different emotions, all kind of things going on because we still have to live outside of work. But there is sometimes you have to check it at the door. I want to introduce my wonderful co-host. I tell you, you guys are amazing, and it's just this platform is continuing to grow. I don't know if you guys have been checking it out, but I'm so proud. And to Dr. Marianne Pinkston. I'm sorry. Why? Why? What is that? What is that all about? I don't know. But you are a one of a kind, and I'm just so excited to have you as a co-host. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Val. Having fun, getting so much done today. So this is good. I'm glad to be here.
This is good. And of course, Dave Smith, the one and only Dave Smith. Dave, we missed you last week. How are you doing?
I'm good. I've been busy, burning the candle on both ends with the
Oh, I
kids,
see you out
family, and the
there. I see you in these streets working. I am so proud of you. I am so proud
Thank
of what
you.
you're doing and what you bring to everything, especially from the young generation and for us old. You just have a way of just connecting and making someone just want to keep going and doing
Thank
more.
you.
And just thank you. Thank you for being a part. So are y'all ready for this conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Before I get going, I was being a little nosy because normally I wait on my team to tell me, but I've been all over these YouTube streets, and I think our subscribers. Abigail, do you mind jumping in on that? Yeah, I don't know if y'all know.
Yes, so we have 2,500 subscribers on our YouTube channel.
Yes, this is amazing. This truly says to me that we are walking in the right path with the right connection. This three wheel motion here we have going on over here is actually doing something right. So thank you guys. I take no credit. I share in everything that is happening with these two phenomenal ladies.
Thank
So
you.
let's just jump in on this. And I know that for other people that have millions, hundreds, thousands of subscribers, that sound like, oh, that's so small. But for me, that's like feeling like we have millions, because when you think where you came from and just in a short time and you just stay focused on something that God put in you and you don't give up, he continues to pour in and things manifest itself, especially when you're doing something for someone else. So I'm really excited about this.
Amen.
All righty then. Well, let's just go with it. Have you ever been in a situation, and either one of you guys, where you came in this morning to work and you are just really a ball of emotions, and you haven't been able to like get this thing on track? How do you deal with it? What do you do? Has that been you? Have you ever had to check it at the door or tell an employee to check it at the door?
Yeah, I had a great employee years ago who said, and when my practice was not Pinkston Medical and Wellness, but Pinkston Family Practice, and I had I asked her, she was always so happy and bubbly at work. I'm like, how do you do that just every day for years? And she said, Dr. Pinkston, when I come to work and I walk in the door, I put on my Pinkston Family Practice suit and wear that. And then when it's time to shut down and I'm walking out the door, I take off my Pinkston Family Practice suit and I put on my mom's suit, and and I just switch my roles. I thought that was actually a fairly well described way of handling. It's difficult though. It's difficult.
Well, it's difficult because when you carry so many role. You have so many roles, and you have so much that you are. First, your wife, you're a mother,
Mhm.
you're carrying the burden of making sure that everybody gets paid. You're also carrying the vision. You're just everything. You're a sister, you're a friend, your daughter. And how do you just check it? Yesterday was a heavy one for me,
Mm.
because my team still needed me. However, I had my personal stuff going on with, making sure that I was there for my mother. I had my clients pulling at me. I still had my
It
team
never
here
stops.
needing things. It just doesn't stop. And then finally, I had one of my team members called me and said, "Hey, do you mind? Do you have a moment?" And I'm like, "Sure." That I pour into you. And so that right
Mm.
there speaks volumes. Just having someone that can really know that you're off
Yeah.
and
Mm.
they're willing to pour in. So
People
checking it
don't
at the
see it.
door. Huh?
They don't
Excuse
see
me?
it. And people don't see it. I don't find that people see it, especially when you're the leader and you're at the top. People don't really
Mm.
check on you very, very often.
Mm.
They don't,
They really
because I
Yeah.
think that they're so used to, and it's partly our fault because we always have this mask on. I got it together. But
Yeah.
yesterday I didn't have it together. I literally couldn't mask it. I
Mm.
couldn't mask it. I couldn't, I just finally had to say, I can't deal with this right now. And I think when I said it to this one employee, the employee said, she called back later and she said, "Can I pour into you?"
wow.
And
Mm.
that really,
That's
it,
amazing.
yeah, you understand? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
checking it at the door, Day, how do you feel about
Yeah.
that?
So two things come to mind, especially me and my friends. We have a saying like, check on your strong friends, because the strong
Mm,
Yeah.
friends are usually the ones who are the last to say they
Right.
need help. And I like to say the phrase creating space for somebody. Like,
oh
no
my
matter who
God.
it is, you're creating space so you can take on some of that burden for your strong friends or whoever, because they are at their capacity. So those words like give me comfort. Creating space for someone and check on your strong friends.
Right.
And as far as checking in at the door, just a personal example, I don't want to bring the stress of work and my business to my kids. Like
Yes.
when I pick them up from school, someone said to me a long time ago, your kids should see that they light up your eyes. And so when I
Mhm.
pick them up, I want them to see smiles and joy and excitement, not like I'm preoccupied. Come on, let's go. Because I want to check that at the door. I don't want to give them the energy that I have, and then later I can process it. Or I'm good at compartmentalizing. I don't
Oh,
know if it's good or bad, but
you write a book on that. Do
Yes.
like a whole
tell me.
podcast book
Yes.
webinar on that, please.
So can you tell me, how do you
Mm.
check it at the door when you're going home? I love that. I
When
mean,
I'm going
I hear you
home,
saying it with the kids, but how
yeah,
do you do it? Because you're bringing some time in that
yeah,
moment, you can also bring that energy into your relationships and with your
yeah.
spouse. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I'm still working on that part. I feel like because my business is like in the crevices of my life, it's like evening, weekend when I work
Mm.
primarily on my business, it's hard to check it at the door.
Hmm.
But I actually think that when you do feel that that tipping point, like that moment where you're like overwhelmed, that's actually the Holy Spirit, believe what you want, about telling you to take a step back because you're
Yeah.
trying to do too much. And so you listen to yourself and then you say, okay, let me get it together,
Right.
shake it off. Like it's like
And
recognizing it. That's how you do it.
the thing that comes to mind every single time about all this is my almost my motto, I guess, of fake it till you make it. And I don't want to
Mm,
do that anymore. I'm tired of pushing
Faking it.
that, right, faking it. And but
Yes.
I'm making it, it's happening. But what's going on underneath and what keeps getting pushed aside,
It's
in
my
fake it
emotion.
mode is dangerous.
Yeah. And I think that, and I'm glad that's a good segue into how I want to take this conversation, because in the workplace, especially us of old, have used that phrase, "fake it till you make it."
mm,
But what we're doing and what we're saying to people, my emotions and my feelings don't matter. So
mm,
Right.
you come from a place of really being, not being authentic, and you're not really being someone relatable. You are this person. That's why people don't see the leader as being someone that have emotions.
Right.
They're just almost robotic. And so I think it's okay. It's really okay to, oh Lord, how can I say this? Let it out there when it's not a good day, but don't be nasty with it. Just say, hey, I'm having a rough day.
Well,
I
there's
may
two
need to
ways
step back.
of doing it, that are one very appropriate, one not. So I think most of the time when we talk about checking it at the door or allowing ourselves to feel and kind of wear our heart on our sleeve a little bit, I don't think most people are transparent about the fact that they're going through something. I think most of the time, if I walk in the door and, I've had a really tough morning and I walk in with the staff, I'm barking at people. It doesn't happen often, but everybody does it. But, you'll bark at people and you just have a rough mood and everybody's like, uh-oh. And there's a much better way to do that and just walk in and say, guys, I've had a really tough morning. Forgive me for the moment. If I start things off, I don't want to jack your mood. I don't want to change,
Yes.
but just hang in there with me a little while. Let me just wind down. I'll get back into my groove. And I think people will be like, oh, okay. And maybe they'll take care of your coffee.
Actually, people are much more receptive to you
Right.
just being transparent,
Exactly.
and I love where you went, Day, straight out the box when you said check on your strong friends.
Right.
You can check, you can check on your strong friends, the leaders, because they have to be strong, your employer. You can check on them because they're not going to really naturally tell you
Right.
what's going on. At the same time, we should open our mouth. It's
Right.
okay. This false narrative that women have to be something different than what we are. When a man is not in the mood, he just lets you know he's not in the mood. Why do we women have to walk around here? Or maybe that's something we put in our heads that we need to make sure that we have it all together.
Well, I think it's a double standard too, because if like I really do like how you were vulnerable with your team, but if a woman does it, we're labeled as emotional or something. When a man is speaks out about how he's feeling, then he's deemed as being emotionally intelligent or something like that. So I think it's a double standard that we have to continue to work on and say, no, I'm not being emotional. I'm being genuine and authentic. And this is real leadership, So I think
and really with that's so good. We're actually going there because it's really just a myth that we played into. And I think we can change that narrative by just being who we are and who we're called to be. You're in that role as a leader. You're in, and whether you're a leader or you're just an employee, it's okay. It's literally okay to have emotions.
And
Well, I see that.
I apologize. Maybe women get that view because we walk in gripey, bitchy, so to speak, and and don't control that emotion. You don't have to show emotion. You can let people know how you're feeling, but you don't have to show them how you're feeling. I think there's a difference in letting people know I'm not in a great mood this morning. I'm not feeling real well versus walking in and just letting the bitchiness fly,
Yes.
There's a big difference in that emotionality.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that I think has helped this platform to grow is that we keep the listeners engaged, and that's some of the feedback that I'm getting is that we take the time to hear them out there. We're not just doing all the talking; we allow them to ask questions, and we get them engaged. And we have one now from. You want to go ahead, Abigail, and give that question that just came through, a couple of them.
We have one from Guillermo Watson. He said,
"Hi, Guillermo. How you doing?
Have you ever had any kind of situation where you just can't express your emotions, even if you wanted to?"
Oh, I'll let the doctor take that one.
Yeah, I mean, think about it too. When when you're with patients may be kind of a very difficult group of people because you're being a mom. You relate to being a mom. When you're with your staff, sometimes you can kind of let down and tell them a few things, kind of cross that line. But when you're a mom and you're with patients, you can never cross that line. You can or say exactly what you're thinking and feeling. You always have to be very diplomatic about it, or and so there's always 20 times a day, every day, you run into that. And so that's a caution that we have to have with our role, not just as leaders, but whatever
Your
profession.
profession you're in.
There you have to keep keep that line when you're dealing with employees, or there's sometimes you can let things down just a
But you
little.
still have to keep that line.
Very careful
You
always.
you have to. You really do. Day, I'm going to ask you that same question. What's your take on that? Hello? Did she freeze up?
She froze a little bit, didn't she?
Oh, she froze up. She'll come back in.
Yeah.
Okay, then we just got another question. You want to go ahead and go with that one, Abigail?
Yes. So this one says, in a workplace, is it really possible to separate your personal and work life?
I'm going to say that my answer to that is it's important to separate it.
Yeah.
It's very, very important. And the reason it's important to separate it is because when you start spearing over into your personal, it can get cloudy, or you get into that gray area that can get you in some trouble. However, because you're working with people and you're spending more time with them than you're naturally, even your own family, you're going to have those connections. You're going to have those relationships. And all relationships are up and down. And so what you're sharing is important. It's important that you are careful with what you're sharing. But when you're having that bad moment, I think it's okay to have someone that you can trust,
Yes.
but do it within moderation.
Right. Always.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, there she's back in there. She's back
Well
in there.
said.
Okay.
So how would you feel about that again, Dr. Pinkston? And then we'll get Dave back in.
There in the workplace, you do have to keep that separation. It is extremely important to do that. I think where you may be coming from, Joseph, is that you do spend so much time with people at work and in your job and at the workplace that sometimes you do fall a little too comfortable. And if you're having a rough day, a rough time or whatnot, and that's the only person you're going to be with the next 12 hours, you feel the need to reach out and want to cross that line. But again, you just don't know people as well as you think. And it is a professional atmosphere. And although you do spend time with people and need to be personable and have some of those connections, you really don't know what other people are going through. You also don't really know what their threshold is and trusting them. And you can get into trouble if you go too far beyond those boundaries.
And again, you have to always remember that's your employee, not your friend, and then one of the things is my big thing is that when you have to be very careful when you're getting into political and religious topics. Stay away from them. And it's so easy when you let your guards down in that space. You feel like, well, I talked to you about what's going on with my kids. Why can't I have this conversation over here on my religious beliefs? That's why you have to, it's a fine line. And so, I think you have to be very careful. All right, next one.
Yes, so the next question is from Darnell Harper. He said,
hey, Darnell, how you doing?
He said, I'll add a little bit with Joseph's question. What if you're the boss in both your family and your company? Is it possible for you to separate your two lives?
Oh, wow.
It's a great question.
Wow. Okay, so all right, Darnell. Okay, that's tough. Well, let's talk about what boss means, because I think that can also be relative. I don't want to take that day. Go ahead. You want to?
Well, yeah, that would be my question. What kind of elaborate what the boss and the family looks like? Are you saying that you are a single parent, or you are maybe the one who makes decisions? Because I would think that, of course, in the company there's like a clear, hierarchy, right? You got the CEO and people, you can figure out who the leaders are. But also in the family, I would think that there would be a little bit more collaboration if there are
there's a blend. Exactly.
There's a blend. And so in either of those cases, you kind of have to separate where you can, but also see if there is a way for you to blend and offload some things and be able to be more vulnerable, especially in your family, than maybe in your company. But if that's the culture that you have in your company, then maybe that
Right.
even exists there too.
And I wonder if what he means, though, and maybe he can clarify, is that if you are maybe the boss of your company, but you work with your family members there. So if you
Mm,
are the boss in your company and you are over, over your family members, is it possible to keep that separation? And so
uh,
I wonder if that's maybe what he means. And then it's
Hey,
true.
Daryl, if you could come back in there with a little more context to what your question is, because I think that's a great question and we really would like to dive in there a little more.
yeah.
Okay, next one.
So
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
I was
keep
going to
going,
say
Dave.
on that question that Dr. Pinkston mentioned, I know there are couples who work together like you and Mr. Carter,
Right.
Yes.
right? Brother Carter.
Okay.
So when it comes to checking in at the door, if you're always working together, how do you do that if you are a couple? I'm curious about that
I
answer because that
appreciate
may be
that.
with Darnell's situation. That may
Well,
be.
here's one of the things that's so important to me. My husband is my husband, whether I am working or I'm at work. He is the head under God for me.
Hmm.
And I respect him with everything inside of me. However, that does not mean that I agree with everything that he says. And so checking something at the door means checking your ego,
Mm.
checking your emotions, because when we come to work, we come to work. And so we're going to have the disagreements even when we're having our dialogue on the show, but because we're two separate individuals. But when it comes down to respect, the respect is the respect. And that's how we deal with it. I hope I answered that question.
And I
Yeah.
think that is the answer to it, a level of respect. And so,
Mhm.
I work with my ex of all things and in business. So, not only do we have to be parents of children, but we also have to be business partners, in the business.
Right.
And so we do have to keep that level of respect and keep our egos at the
Yes.
door.
Okay.
But we also have to, let the past, let the problems, let those features of our lives, we also have to check that too.
Mm,
Just make sure that we don't allow that through. It just takes strong people
And
to.
it's some and full transparency, because I just can't lie. There are
hmm.
sometimes the emotion, because we're still human.
Mhm.
And sometimes there are things that are going on with you emotionally that if someone says something, it's a trigger.
It's a
And
trigger.
so I am aware of when those triggers, and sometimes you can just kind of, and then I have to kind of dial it on back. Hey,
Hmm.
now, girl, you may be
That's
going
right.
a little, and that's even in the workplace.
Right.
Certain
Yeah.
things that people can say to you that may trigger you, but you need to kind of catch
You
it and
almost
dial
have
it on.
to think ahead of yourself a little
Yes,
and just
yes,
let the trigger come in and just realize that, let it process. Don't
yes.
don't
Don't
need to
react.
respond. Don't react.
Mm,
Yeah,
Reacting
one.
is a very dangerous place,
It's,
to be.
one of the things that I have come to learn is that if I am responding in the heat of something, I've already lost it.
Yeah.
I am already reacting to the way they want me to react. And I've not given myself an opportunity to process what just came to me. So, right.
yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, Dave, go ahead. We got another one coming. There you go. I think he came back. Didn't Donnell come back?
Yeah, Darnell said, Dr. Pinkston is right. It's like, what if you have family members in both your work and normal lives? How do you separate it? And then he also said Val can relate to this question more. But I also think Dr. Pinkston can too, having,
Yes.
working with her
Yeah,
ex-husband.
it's
Yes.
Yeah.
different, definitely in different ways. But yeah, it
Yeah.
is. You're right. I think that you just have to keep that respect and that boundary with
It's
things, and don't react
Yeah.
it's
and
always in everything that you do, even with your team, even with your coworkers, it's always about respect.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So checking it at the door is gonna always be check your ego,
Yep.
check your emotions, and
Yep.
remember what we're here for. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's also important to recognize too, like we are human and we do have emotions.
Right.
And sometimes if you know you're not able to check it at the door, like take a personal day, like take a mental health day. Like if you're really going through something, you may not be able to
check it at the door.
check it at the door.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's better to kind of take that time to recover than to like force yourself in a situation where you might act out of character or you might lash out at somebody.
I love that.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
I really think that that's it in a nutshell, because there are times you really need to just say, I can't do it.
That's
And-
great. Yeah, let's go there for a minute, because
Yeah.
there may not always be the ability to do that. And how do you handle that? I know there are times where I've needed to do that, but I've got 20 people on the schedule at the office.
Wow.
If I don't show, we don't eat. And so
Yeah.
it's sometimes really tough. So how do you handle it in situations where you really aren't able, to stand
Well,
down?
I'm gonna turn that question around. What happens when you it's gonna sound cold when I say it, but I just want us to think, what happens when you hit the floor and you can't do it? It still goes on.
It
So
does.
wouldn't it be better to say, I just can't today. I got 20 people on the schedule, but I'm not mentally prepared to take care of those, and their health and their need is just as important. However, today I'm choosing to take care of me.
Yeah.
And so I really was that person. I was so empty, guys, just pouring into everyone, that I literally felt like I was about to have a mental breakdown.
Yep.
So I really, when I get to a point that I feel like I'm hitting that wall, and Abigail can attest that, I'll just say, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm going to work from home, or I'm not coming in, and I do still have the stressors of making sure that the bills are going to get paid, the money, that's stress all in itself, but you got to take care of yourself.
You do.
Because if you crash and burn, the whole thing is going to crash and burn, which I'm tied to every employee that's tied to me.
Yeah.
So.
I wonder if, I'm not in that situation necessarily, because I can step away, and for most of the time from my job and my business, I can move things around. I wonder if we can, you ladies and the others who have this scenario, can create some sort of contingency plan, right? Like if you say, Dr. Pinkston, you communicate to your team that there may be days that you're feeling like this. And this is what you need. This is the type of support that you need from them today. You may need them to call people that you can reschedule it. You may need them to set up some telemedicine visits so that you can be at home or be in a different space.
Which is what we do. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like if you share that with them, they may rise to the occasion and say, you know what, I'm gonna help Dr. Pinkston out today. I'm gonna step in a little bit more. That's what I think a lot of us could do. And it goes back to that vulnerability and like allow them to create space for us to offload some of that.
And I definitely want, the reason I brought that up is because that's what we
really
do.
good.
I have my office manager, Jennifer, who is very capable and understands. And we just, we don't even have to speak. We just know.
She just knows. Yeah.
Knows automatically. She's been with me for 12 years. So yeah, we do already have all that in place. And I think the reason I bring it up is because I know there are people out there who feel that way and think that way. So if I just I just have to keep going, I can't. So I just want people to understand that, you do, like you say about what happens if you don't. And that's what
I actually appreciate you bringing that up, because that was my mindset. I literally had that mindset. And Day, that was truly my mindset when we first met in my other career year, 20 something years ago. I couldn't do it. I just had to keep going. I couldn't afford to take time off. Right. And what ended up happening is I hit that part where he took me out. He took me out because I didn't take care of myself. And so I always believe that, and thanks for bringing that up, Dr. Pinkston, because it's so important. And I love that Day said, we have to allow our team and the people that are around you to be able to say, I see something off with Valerie. I see something off with Day. I see something off with Dr. Pinkston. Let me look and see what I can do on her schedule or on his schedule, whoever's schedule, to kind of lighten the load
Yep.
and then present it to you, because that controlling side of us still want to keep going on. But I think sometimes when you have someone present it to you
Yeah.
and say, hey, I can move this around and you can kind of get out of here
I
early.
call it being handled.
Yes.
That's what Jennifer does. She handles me.
Yes. Yes.
She sees it. She did that yesterday. She's like, Dr. Pinkston, you only have 3 people left this afternoon. I'm like, what? It's only 3:00. Are you kidding me? She goes, I'm handling you. I'm like, okay.
Okay. I love it.
I
I
love
love it.
that.
I
I
do
want
too.
somebody to handle
Or-
me. I need somebody like her. Like,
I
this is
think
what's
you do.
happening.
Everybody needs a
There
Jennifer.
you go. Well, Amy has something up here for us. Let's see what Amy is saying.
Yeah, so Amy said, I wonder how people can maintain their cool side in the workplace.
Ego.
Mm.
I'm gonna
Ego.
let Day take that.
Mhm.
Because you're always so cool. Come on, Day.
Step up.
I do have that temperament, right? I do, and 90% of the time, I just let things roll off. Um, it's just my
Reaction.
personality.
It's
That's
that
my
reaction.
personality. I don't, especially in the workplace. At home, I'm a little bit more, sassy, right?
Mhm.
But in the workplace, I don't know. I guess it's just the way I was conditioned, brought up about being more reserved and being more like,
Professional.
chill, professional.
Yes.
That's my MO all the time. And so I know some people are quick to react. I've never been that way. That's just my temperament. So
Mhm.
maintaining my cool side is okay, but I will say that sometimes that's a detriment because sometimes you need to react. You need to be able to speak up for yourself. So that was something I've had to work on is no, that's not right. Like let me speak up. So that's something that it's a good and a bad. It's a pro and a con to that. But
Timing.
I think that's
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Hal, please go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Because
Well,
we talked about that. Go
a
ahead.
minute ago, right? And I think poor Day when she froze it, we talked about the fact that reaction. You have to stop, process when people tell you, count to 10 before you, respond. You have to know 10's a long time, but in my world, I can go to 2 and that's it. I got to go. But I think it is that reaction. If you can just not be knee jerk and just allow your temper to settle just a minute before, and then just be professional and remember we're in a professional atmosphere. So respond more diplomatically that way. It's my favorite word lately, diplomatic. But
I think I want to kind of take this, turn it a little bit. We have an employee that is looking to, or they feel that they should be promoted, or they're thinking about getting promoted or applying for a promotion. And then they apply and they believe that they meet all of the qualifications. They check all of the boxes. They go through the interview. They felt that the interview was perfect. And their coworker or someone from the outside has got the position. How do they maintain a good attitude and stay in there? Or what would you recommend? Because there is disappointment, there is an attitude, there is all types of emotions going on. What would you recommend to them? Either one can take that.
maybe they need to understand the why. Is it possible to be able to sit in constructive criticism and understand why maybe there's some things they need to work on that's the other person may be a little bit more mature, a little bit more experienced or something. There's a reason why you may not have met the criteria you think you do, but the powers that be don't. So that's a great opportunity to learn about yourself and learn where you may need to develop or grow. I don't think it's always meant to push people down. I don't think people get necessarily picked over because of something's wrong with them or something, is a bad, but I think most people take it that way. It's like, oh, there's something wrong with me or I just don't like my management. They overlook me all the time. No, there's an opportunity.
There's a reason.
There's a reason.
I'm sorry. I think a part of that is also you feeling like I should get it, but you have never really taken the time. Maybe someone is coaching you. Maybe someone is trying to pour into you, but it's not necessarily the time for you to move forward. And as you said, just take the feedback. Don't
Right.
really
Yeah.
get caught up in. Now, it is disappointing when you've been there a while and you've continued and you see someone younger, or maybe you see someone older that just came through the door. And I'm not speaking of an age, but they just came through the door. They may have less experience, but they are now your boss,
Right.
or
Mhm.
they got the position. That's when it's important to check that ego,
Right.
because
Yeah.
Day, you want to dive in on that? Has that ever
Yeah.
happened?
That's I think it's happened to me on the other side, where
Hmm.
I was the one, the younger one, the less experienced one, who got something over someone who had been in the space a little bit longer. But I think it comes down to communication, right? Like
Hmm.
the boss had to really sit down and um, with the three of us and explain, why this is happening, what I brought to the table, what her role brought to the table, and
Hmm.
why she's staying in her role and I'm going here. And it really did help both of us
Both.
to like, because
Hmm.
he didn't want me to think that I was like, oh, I'm high and mighty. He didn't want her to
Right.
feel like she was
Which is
not
so
valued
important.
either.
Right.
So I having that conversation had me have respect for her, because her tenure and her experience and why she needed to stay there and why
Hmm.
my experiences was better here. And so it came down to the person in the leadership role.
The
We
leader.
did a great job in explaining and communicating the why. So I think that's what you should, if you're in that position and you're feeling like you're not getting what you deserve or what you want, have a conversation. That's an adult thing to do. Have a conversation and ask why and how you can get better. What can you do in order for you to be eligible or be considered for a
And
promotion? Hold them accountable.
you
That
said
is
something
excellent.
important, that
Yes.
it's on your leader. So
Yes.
Mhm.
if the three of you are in this difficult situation, somebody's being chosen
Mhm.
and over somebody else, and then that is going to set up some animosity, and the
Yep.
only person that can really break through
Fix it.
all of that is the leader that makes
Exactly.
the choice. And to take that, it's difficult to do. It's difficult to
Hmm.
sit in front of two people
Yeah.
and give
And
somebody bad news over somebody else. But if you are a good leader, you can do that, and you can take that role and guide your people through a difficult decision like
Absolutely.
that. So it's
I
always
think that Day, I think that was spot on. It looks like Abigail want to jump in on something.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
I also am a big believer in like timing.
Hmm.
And, just because, maybe someone else, you got passed up for an opportunity, you don't know what other opportunities are there.
Hmm.
And, if you really believe you deserve, this promotion or something, you don't know what your leader might have in store for you. They
Exactly.
might have bigger plans for you. They might
Mhm.
have a
true.
different opportunity that's better suited to your
Yeah.
strengths.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
in the works, and just because that isn't communicated, that doesn't mean you're like undervalued.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, that's that ego.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
love the fact the leader should have a conversation
Yeah.
with them
Mhm.
both, because I think even through that process, or when that decision is made before it's rolled out, it's always good to bring them in and have
Mhm.
that conversation together and roll it out that way, so that there is not that underlying. So I commend your boss for doing that.
Right.
Speaking of ego, we actually have a question
Sure.
from Terry Beck, sorry, that says, in a workplace, when does your ego manipulate you?
Oh, oh,
Mm.
oh. I, I'm gonna leave. Go ahead. Who wants it? Because I'm gonna come back. I have something to say on that. Go ahead, Doc. I'll let you go.
Well, I don't know. I think that
Well, a lot of the doctors have egos. So
oh
let's.
gosh,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know. That would be an entire show probably
Yes.
on its own. And so yeah, that's a tough one. But ego is something we all have, and
Hmm.
we just have to, we have to manipulate our ego and not let our ego manipulate us. You just
Oh,
have to be in tune enough with yourself to
Mhm.
understand when to cut that loose and be the ego in the room, and when to stand back and stand down and not let that sucker take over, because it can do
I
that.
think
Yeah.
that is so great.
Yeah.
Day, you
Yeah.
want some of that?
Yeah. I think that oh, God has a way of humbling you. I say that.
Oh,
I got
Ooh, don't it?
I had been on this trajectory of success with my my career, like winning in the medical field. winning top saleswoman, pioneer, doing different things, and then I got laid off.
Mm.
Right? I was like, me, like
Me?
what? And
Yes.
so my ego had manipulated me to think that I was not invincible, but that those things wouldn't happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
That I was living in the fairyland. Like
Mm-hmm.
you are just as, I don't say indispensable. You're not indispensable. Like if there's business decisions to be
You are
made,
disposable. You
you
are
may
disposable.
be you may be on the tail end of that, and you get the consequences that come with that. So the ego will make you think that you are indispensable and that you are
That's
not,
real.
that you can't, you can, not have these things happen. So what you have to do is always just try to stay humble. Have people around you who will help you stay humble, and
Mhm.
check yourself, so that you won't, because that doesn't serve anyone having that ego. It really doesn't. It doesn't serve you. It
No.
doesn't serve the people around you either.
People
Yeah.
are disposable, and that's sad to say. I think somebody gave me a stat the other day about our age group, that we are considered now in the advertising world or whatnot as insignificant, and you
Ooh.
don't understand that things do change. So I'll give you an example too. When you think about physicians, I've said it for a long time, but I think in the next 10 years physicians will no longer be seeing patients, that we will not be the same
Mm.
as what we are now, that we will be administrative only.
Yes.
And
Mm.
I see
Yes.
it coming. And
Oh,
so
it's coming.
20 years ago, I would thought, the doctor, there a little job security. Oh, there will always be, that. No, things do change. And I think
Mm.
if you're not the leader, like, I'm the boss and the leader and whatnot in my business, and I'm the business owner or whatnot. So if you're somebody who is, an employee of a company, and you've been there a long time, and you work so hard, and you're like you said, you're the top in your sales and whatnot, do not get comfortable. You
Mm-mm.
are, and if you carry that attitude with you while you are in the workplace, you will be shown, very quickly that no, you can be let go. We do not
Yes.
need you.
It's one thing about the ego in the workplace. What the ego comes when you're a person that's so full of it, full of
Mhm,
yourself. It's not just in the workplace; it's everything that you do. It kind of
mhm.
comes
Mm-hmm.
across,
It's true.
and so really, until you're able to check that, and it's nothing wrong with being
Confidence,
confident. It's
right?
nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong with walking in and saying, "You know what, I can do this." But it's how you deliver that.
Mhm.
What are you putting out there? So I'm one that truly believes that you just have to check that ego. The ego
Right.
Yeah.
doesn't leave you. You
So
just have
there's
to
a
check it.
difference
And
between
be
confidence.
confidence and ego.
Big,
Yep.
And people get that mixed up.
they do.
Yep. Yep.
Yes,
Very,
they get it mixed up. All
very.
right, Abby. Abigail has something else for us. Come on.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I think it's important to always be open to learning.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm.
because you might be at the top, or you might feel like, everyone's coming to you for answers. That doesn't mean that there's not room to grow and room to learn. And I think the second somebody thinks that they know everything, that is where their downfall begins.
Right.
Yep.
One of the
Absolutely.
things I always, like you saying, that one of the things I always say about my team, whether it's here or wherever I'm at, I'm a good leader is only as strong as her team. If
Mhm.
I am the one that knows everything in this business, I have capped my business.
Right.
So
Mm.
if you are the supervisor, if you're the manager, and you're the only one that has the fresh ideas, that no, everything has to come from you, then you have hindered your whole department. You've hindered your company,
Absolutely.
and that's not the way it works. And trust me, you're smothering your team,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
just believe that I couldn't operate at the level that we need to operate to keep growing if I wasn't willing to allow fresh new ideas coming in.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we have another
Yeah.
question on YouTube from Peter Jasper.
Hi, Peter.
Peter says, in a workplace, how important is it to have a calm mind?
It's just as
Mm.
important in your personal life to have a calm mind.
Yeah. Start there.
Because, yeah, let's just start right there, because it's so much going on now. It's almost like emotionally charged. Everybody is ready
Mm.
to go off. And so it's so important that it starts in your personal life, because
Yeah.
just one split second can change your whole life. And
Yep.
so really just you gotta start, you just gotta work on being calm.
Agreed.
You want to jump on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Dr. Pinkston may you can correct me if this is wrong, but I remember learning about emotional intelligence
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
way that your brain works when it comes to having an emotionally charged situation. You start to release hormones that can
Mhm.
cloud your judgment,
Mhm.
cortisol and serotonin,
Adrenaline. So
adrenaline.
adrenaline.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
what happens is you go back to a primitive state when you have an emotionally charged situation where you're fight or flight. You're gonna say something, you're gonna
Yes.
react. And if you can stay calm, then
Mhm.
you won't have
So
those chemicals take over your brain and you make better decisions, because
absolutely.
you can't do that when you're emotionally charged. It's like you physically, biologically can't do that. And so
So
it's
here's
always
something,
that counting down, that 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1,
right?
all of that is
Right?
helpful.
Yes.
You're absolutely correct, Dave. And what it comes down to is we have the ability to train our neurological system to react in situations, and that primitive brain, the same brain, the same primitive area in my cat, over there, that I have in a frog or whatnot, we all sense danger. So,
Yes.
and negativity. And so no matter where you are in the food chain, you can sense that danger. The
Mhm.
problem is that we as humans are a lot more able to fine tune our responses and reactions. But
Hmm.
until we train our system to behave appropriately. So that's why I encourage people to do things like, it sounds hokey as hell, but to do things like meditation and whatnot at home, because you actually can train your neurological system to react differently in situations where, if something, you're in a car and somebody slams on their brakes all of a sudden, you actually can go into a state slow motion wise where you respond appropriately instead of panicking
Yes.
and just having a wreck. You can respond to that,
Crazy.
gain control, and know what's going on around you. You can train your system to do that. Now,
Mm.
the reason that's so important is because our cortisol system, it fires off when we live in fight or flight
Oh
all
yeah.
the time. We
Hmm.
It's ready. It's
it,
ready.
you
Stay ready.
increase your risks of heart disease and
Mhm.
Mm,
obesity and diabetes and all of those things,
wow.
dementia, all of those things. You increase your risk factors down the road by allowing your body to just be fight or flight all the time. So
Mhm.
gaining control of that is
I'm hearing something in
definitely
the background.
possible, and meditation is the road to do it.
Wow. Yes. Love that.
I think that's very good. Are you guys hearing something in the
Yes,
background? I'm hearing.
dude. Background noise, and I don't know if it's
I
a
don't know where
TV
it's
or
coming
something
from.
or radio or what.
Oh, I think it may have went. It may have
It,
been Dave.
it
Yeah,
may
It
have
was you,
been
Dave.
me. I'll go
Oh,
on.
okay. Okay. Okay.
sorry,
It's
Dave.
okay. I'm sorry, Dave. I was just like, what is that I'm hearing? But anyway, y'all know what time it is? We got 10
Oh wow.
minutes left. We
Oh,
have 10 minutes left, but we're going to keep going. I do think that speaking on that sense of being calm is so important to a reaction. Don't react.
mhm.
That reaction literally can change your life, and especially in the workplace. If you're frustrated, if you're angry about something, or you feel like someone has wronged you, or you feel like, remember, that's your feeling, and I'm not saying your reality, your feeling is not your reality, it is. But if you react to that emotion, it could literally cost you your job. So
Mhm.
instead of reacting to an email or reacting to what you think someone said, or they feel like they're kind of coming for you, take time, just step back from it. Don't respond to it in the moment. I like to when someone puts something out there on an email for me, Val will go right there and respond. But Valerie has to fall back. I do my initial email and then I stop because I
Yeah.
have to get it out. I'm one of those people, I
Okay.
have to get it
You
out,
got to get it out.
but
Yeah.
I never send it. Then I come back. By the time I've calmed down, girl, I've missed a the, a the, and everything, and I'm feeling completely different because now I've been able to get a little more information, and then I find it's not as big. So I just say, just take 5.
Do that in your
Yeah.
personal life too.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
if you
really
somebody sends
important.
you a text and upsets you, don't just automatically respond. Just you can, but then plan on erasing it and starting over, and just
Yeah, just don't send it. Get it
I
out.
like that y'all get it out. And I like what Dr. Pinkston say, because sometimes when I feel like I'm going into a situation that can be high stress, it can be emotionally charged. Like even if I interview, like something I know I may get overwhelmed, I
Mhm,
will like say a prayer, meditate before,
mhm.
because I really do think that you can send that energy out there to help you and
Yes.
the person that you're meeting with.
absolutely.
Every
Yes.
time I've done that, it's always like help me, because you can only control yourself. Help me to react better
Right.
or
There
to
you
show up differently. So I like Dr. Pinkston's advice. And then I also think about when you said one decision can mess up a lot. Sorry for all the noise back
You're
there.
That's
fine.
okay.
I think about what happened at the Oscars last year with
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Will Smith,
Yes.
and his initial reaction erased decades of work and reputation that he built for
Yes.
what?
For
A
what?
quick emotional reaction
Ego.
and an
A ego.
ego, an
Yes.
ego, and
A
that
ego.
happens. That's a large scale event, but like anything, you could
You
pop off
can.
at somebody. Now you're labeled. You may lose your job. So it's
Yes.
really important to check that at the door and do some of what the Dr. Pinkston say, the
Yeah.
meditation, the praying before you walk
Yeah.
into a
Yes.
situation.
You
Well, we
can
got
control your heart rate even in situations like that by prepping your system. It's amazing stuff.
100. Well, we got about 5 more minutes. We're going to take a couple of questions. We're going to actually just read through a couple of comments instead of just kind of taking questions, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. Go ahead.
I did want to add one quick thing, and then I'll
Oh
read that
God, you
comment.
see how I just love it. Go
See how
ahead.
she is.
Just one quick thing.
Sure.
I personally come from I do like performing. I sing. I used to do acting when I was younger. So I always have looked at work as like I'm playing a role
Mhm.
or I'm putting on a show. I say putting on a show a lot, even if I'm having like a really rough day and I really don't want to go to work or I really don't want to like take care of something. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna put on the show
Mhm.
and I'm gonna come home and then I'm gonna take my costume off, take that mask off, and then be myself for a second. So that's kind of I've had to switch my mindset into doing that as well.
So that's helped you?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I can't put on a show. I guess the older you get, I'm just going to leave you with this here. The older you get, it's very difficult to put that mask on and off.
Yeah.
So just remember.
I mean, it is exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
So just remember, if I can give you any advice, control your emotions, take a moment to step back, and just be truly who you are, because what you're doing is suppressing real emotions down there, and those emotions aren't going anywhere. And sooner or later, what's in there is coming out.
Yep.
So you kind of want to.
That's true.
Don't
That's
mask
maybe
it.
that's not the most healthiest thing to do.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to,
Fake
and
it
I'm
till
not
you
the
make
doctor.
it. Fake it till you make it.
But yeah, you'll get it.
We do have a comment from Piers Reese. Piers says, I remember once I was having such a bad mental breakdown with all the workloads. One time my coworker just asked me a simple question. Do you want me to grab something for you?
Oh, what a difference.
I just couldn't control my emotions and shouted at him.
Yeah. And that's literally, Pierce, I'm sure you are, just the fact that you recognize that, I'm sure you're working on that. And when you get to that place, and this is from the unlicensed therapist of myself, but the person that actually have been in that situation, when you get to that place, just take 5. Get up from the desk, go get you some water, take a walk, get you some coffee, just fall back. Because literally, if you respond in the moment, it's something you can't get back. And I'm sure that person really didn't deserve it. And I know you felt bad.
And let somebody help you once in a while. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Any more?
We don't really have any too many more comments. You guys can probably wrap up with your final thoughts.
Well, I love it. Thank you. This has been fantastic. I'm going to start with Day. Day, if you want to, with your final thought of this show, and then how can they find you, and whatever else you want to say.
Okay, so checking it at the door. I would say that just remember that it's not about you. You know, if you can have humble yourself and remember that it's not about you, and try to present yourself the best you can in front of the people that you're in front of. You never know who you're impacting, and you want to make sure that you leave them with a more pleasant experience having been with you than not. That's what I would say to do. And that seems like a big sacrifice to you, but it always comes back to you. I feel like you put that out there, and that energy, that favor, that good life will come back to you. So checking in at the door is helpful to you as well as the people that you're around. And for me, I do have my website here. I work as a productivity coach and digital organizer. I help simplify people's digital life. And so if you want to learn about more about what that looks like, feel free to reach out to me on my website. And I'm on social media with the same hashtag simplicity by day. So happy to always be here and contribute to the conversation. Thank you, Val.
Oh, thank you, Day. So amazing. It's just so easy having a conversation with you and actually being on this platform with you as well. You're just so natural. You're so genuine that you make anybody feel comfortable talking to you. So thank you.
He's smart
It's a
as hell.
oh God, amazing. And to you, Dr. Pinkston, any
Oh,
final
thank you.
remarks that you would like to leave?
Yeah, I love what Dave said, and I think I just have to grow on top of that. Just remember that other people are going through things too. And I think, with all the political atmosphere that we've had with COVID and all the things, the social media, the way it's changed people, I think we've lost a bit of our humanity. And so even though, walking in, we spend more time in our professional world than we do in our private world. So
Mhm.
just remember that piece of yourself is very important. And that, people are going through things too. Just be a part of humanity and be kind, and your energy spreads. So what you walk in the door with is what other people will pick up, and it could change their day in a heartbeat too. So just remember that your energy is very important. As far as finding me, I would love for people to come and check out my podcast. So I
Yes.
am on YouTube and all of the podcast platforms. It's called The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston, but you
Mhm.
can go to drpbetterlife.com and find all of those links and to check it out. I've got almost 2.5 years worth of shows now. It's wonderful. It's a lot of medical. Thank you. It's a lot of medical related stuff. I talked about the meditations and things like that. Kind of what I gave you earlier is an example of what I do. But I also have a clinic here in San Antonio and see patients. So just check out drpbetterlife.com. And Val, as always, thank you so much. And thank the audience out there. You guys are really growing us and making us feel important. We are doing something wonderful. It's lovely. Thank you
Yeah.
all for participating and helping us grow.
Fantastic. And of course, last but not least, your host, Val, absolutely love getting on here with these two amazing women every time. I mean, I learn something every time we have the conversation. I'm just grateful to God that I have women, powerful women around me that are authentic, that are willing to be honest, that are willing to be vulnerable and willing to pour into someone else outside of themselves. So, again, VK. Career conversation is a conversation with professionals out there. And we also have a special show coming up where Day, you will have to bring someone that works with you. We'll talk about that offline. And of course, I have a company called VK Consultant Group where we set up physician practices, go in and work with them to get your bottom line in the area that you want it to be in. And of course, you can catch us on LV with the Val radio and lvwithval.com. We have a lot going on there on the podcast. Again, until next time, we love you